Hey there, true crime aficionados. Looking for a podcast that's as twisted as it is hilarious?
Well, you've stumbled upon the perfect place. Welcome to Luminal on the Wall, or as we like to call it, Lotwa. I'm Becky, the sunshine to your day.
And I'm Bevy, the moonlight to your darkness. Together, we're the sisters you never knew you needed, bringing you true crime like you've never heard before.
Picture this. Two sisters, complete opposites.
Yeah, she's all sunshine and kindness, while I'm the queen of sarcasm and sass.
But that's what makes our sister chat so relatable. We're like the sun and the moon, lighting up your true crime journey with laughter and irreverence.
That's right. We dive into the darkest corners of humanity, but we don't just stop at the gore and the controversies. Oh no. We're here to roast the characters, each other, and sometimes even ourselves.
We laugh hysterically at our own jokes.
And we swear like sailors while we're at it, so if you're easily offended, consider this your warning.
But if you're ready for a wild ride through the twisted minds of murderers, join us on Lotwa. We'll cope with the horrific nature of our content the only way that we know how. That is with a healthy, or maybe excessive dose of sarcasm, wit, and a touch of crass humor.
So what are you waiting for? Hit that follow button and join our sisterhood as we navigate the murky waters of true crime together. We promise you won't regret it.
I gotta turn the AC back off and go back to hell. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Have you ever seen that video on TikTok?
Maybe.
Well, she's reporting her neighbor, ex-Catholic by her demands. And then she ordered the architect, and now she doesn't know what to do. Here we go. Oh my god. I haven't seen that video in ages.
I don't think so.
But it lives rent-free in my head. I'm gonna have to go find it. I'm gonna have to go find it for you. I think I have it in my favorites, thank God. Anyways, banter-wise, I don't have any new banter. Dorian is missing, which makes me really sad. Dorian, the little Russian blue tux that I have.
Oh no.
I have no idea where he's at. And granted, he's a barn cat and a wild cat, so he might just be like out perusing or something like that. But in my heart of hearts, I'm like, I really hope somebody took that sweet bean in and just gave him a home.
Someone just found him.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about the trash squirrel at my work when I don't see him for a long time. I'm like, where'd he go?
Where'd he go? Where's my friend?
It's the trash squirrel.
It's the trash
He's
squirrel.
the trash squirrel because he eats trash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I miss my door, but I'm like, I really, really hope somebody took him in because his little milk mustache and how cute he was and how sweet he is, he deserves a good home.
Those little stray cats.
Little stray cat. They're fucking everywhere. Everywhere.
Oh, I bet.
Because we have the barn cats now. We've got like a collection of our own. Like we have 4 babies that stay around here. 2 girls, 2 boys. But that's now grown to 3 boys, 2 girls, and 2 kittens, which haven't stayed still long enough for me to see if they're boys or girls.
Like, what are you? You just pick it up.
I have done that before. I have literally just walked over to, like, I think it was Spitfire that I did it to. I walked over, I'm like, what are you? And I, like, lifted him up when he was a kitten, and he just, like, froze and looked at me like, what are you doing, lady? I'm like, I'm trying to figure out if you're a boy or a girl. Boy. It was a boy.
Silly cat.
Oh, they're all super goofy.
Was it my grandparents have a place where they park their RV near a lake in Kansas? Or kind of like, it's like almost Ozarks territory. But I know that's like in Missouri, but...
Well, Ozarks
like
territory is from, I want to say, Oklahoma up to Missouri, because we're in Ozarks territory too in Arkansas, because we live in the Ozarks, and then probably into Kansas a little bit.
It looks like the Ozarks there, where they park their RV at, but it's in Kansas. but there were a bunch of stray cats, and one like kept going onto the road.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a little kitten, just like a little bean pod. And so my grandma was like, yeah, I don't know what to do with that. So I got out of the car and I just grab him, and he's like screaming his little. And so I'm walking around with him, and I'm like, I don't know where this goes. And then it was hilarious. This like big tomcat just emerges from a bush, and he's staring at me. And I put the kitten down near him.
You're like, do you want
And
this?
he just kind of, yeah, and I like held my hand out for him to smell, but he's obviously like a feral cat. He just kind of looked at it and then was like dismissive of me. And then when the cat kind of like goes back to the dad cat, like 20 fucking kittens just like shoot out of this bush.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's kind of how it works
That was
here.
so funny. Oh,
I'm like,
they're so silly.
we got a female that's pregnant again. Gray is on second litter since I've been here, at least. I
Oh
have
my god.
I'm pretty sure one of the bigger kittens that showed up the other day is one of Sabrina and Bella's siblings, because they're all about that same size. I'm like, Tiger and Spitfire are bigger than those two. So I'm like, okay, something's going on here. So now we have
Mm-hmm.
two orange tabbies, a black cat, which might try to integrate into my household eventually.
Like, I want you.
A calico, and then we also have a black and white one that is the spitting image of the big moo tomcat that we have around, and I've named him Milk.
Nice.
I'm gonna have to post pictures of all these cats on our Instagram or something. I'm gonna have to tell my mom to do that so people know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we'll go ahead and transition into part 2 of the unsolved murder of Susanna Stodden and Mary Cooper. So while we understand that some individuals listen for the entertainment aspect of true crime, it's important to remember that these are real people with families and friends who may still be suffering from their loss. These stories are not meant to open old wounds or cause further emotional damage to those involved. We remind you to please be respectful and do not dox or contact those involved with cases. The case discussed today may be disturbing to some audience members, and listener discretion is advised. Once again, we have potential sexual assault in this case as our trigger warning. Where we left off is that while everything else is going on, death notifications and things that are happening in the evening, deputies are holding their position on the scene, and it starts to rain. So in order to protect as much of the scene as possible, a tarp is draped over the two bodies to preserve evidence till crews can arrive back that following morning. It wasn't until around 8 a.m. on Wednesday morning when the Major Crimes Unit began to roll in to investigate the scene. With them, search and rescue trackers and members of the Coalition Investigations Unit are coming in to measure distances and draw up diagrams of the crime scene. Matters were complicated as the rain from the previous night continued to fall that morning, making the crime scene a wet and muddy mess, not to mention the trail getting up there being a wet and muddy mess too. Detectives did their best to collect evidence and photograph the scene heavily. And when the medical examiner arrived around 11 a.m., to examine both of the bodies before the search and rescue team helped them hike them down off the trail to the nearest road. Even after the women were off the scene, crime scene technicians continued to examine the scene, seeing if they could find any other evidence available to them that they might not have seen due to the bodies being there. So it's not uncommon that bodies will get transported off scene and crime scene investigation will continue on with collecting evidence. So they're thoroughly looking through dirt, bushes, and at the time using metal detectors in which they were able to locate and collect cartridge casings and the women's backpacks. Now, Ashley Flowers does mention how depending on which article you read or what source you go to, you may see information about the women still wearing their backpacks when they were found. And I can second this. There were some articles that came up saying that, oh, they still had their backpacks on. It's not true. She further notes that most of the information is held back as to not harm the investigation. However, it did not appear that they had their backpacks rummaged through or if anything had been stolen from them. meaning that if they're holding back information on the backpacks, this might be something that's asked later when somebody confesses to the crime to see if it's an actual confession or if it is a false confession, because people are crazy and they fucking do that, where they confess to crimes that they didn't commit.
Aren't you so cool? I was Jack the Ripper.
I was Jack the Ripper. I actually have a book from somebody that says that he was Jack the Ripper. I'm like, were you though?
Yeah. Wannabe.
So, in addition to this, the vehicle that the women drove was impounded and searched for evidence as well. An autopsy was done on Thursday at the medical examiner's office, and the manner of death was determined to be homicide. Additionally, there were no other signs of sexual assault at the time for the two victims. Now, absence of evidence does not mean that it didn't happen. I just want to remind everybody of that, because there are certain situations, for instance, if your offender uses a condom or something like that, that evidence might not be present. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it didn't happen. Additionally, these two women are found partially undressed, and to what extent it is not disclosed by police. So keep an open mind with this sexual assault. Like I said, it's a back and forth type of game with it of if it happened or not. Ashley discusses theories as to why there may have been an absence of sexual assault. Maybe the killer couldn't perform, or maybe, as she favors, they were interrupted. Regardless, though, further information regarding the medical legal autopsy and cause of death have not been discussed by the authorities. Now, police did have to wonder how the killer had managed to leave the woods undetected by the other hikers. If you recall, there's a couple heading ahead of Susanna and Mary towards Pinnacle Lake. Then there's another couple making their way up behind them around 2:30-ish. Additionally, there's a small group of a father and his two boys fishing at Bear Lake when they heard gunshots around 1 p.m. So you've got groups kind of positioned throughout this trailhead. Looking at a map, there's a couple of ways that a person could have gone off trail and into the woods. And this is what the tracking team was trying to figure out. So they're looking for footprints and vegetation disturbance. Now, vegetation disturbance would be looking at broken tree limbs, any further damage, or assessing if something is broken that's new or old, or possibly disturbance in the ground clearing. To which, having been living in a forest for nearly 9 months at this point now, I can tell you it's very real to see fresh breaks on trees. It looks different than something that's been broken and laying on the ground for a long time. You can tell which branches are new breaks and which ones are old. They found footwear signs that somebody had gone down a draw and back up a draw in the area of the crime scene. The trackers were able to follow the footwear all the way down off trail and almost back to the road. If these were in fact the killer's prints, he didn't take the trailhead back down to the road. So from what you're seeing there, Sarah, from what I could distinguish, it looks like he went the opposite way from Bear Lake and then cut back down to the road.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm looking for like convenient spots to go up. And there's like one part of the mountain where it's like obviously like a lot flatter than the rest of the mountain that is also connected to a trail that is next to the trail that we're on. And it would be near the switchback, so about halfway up the mountain. But my thinking, okay, so if this guy went up a trail and then got to the other trail, did that to those hikers, went back to the trail and got back to his car, how long would it take him to do that? And would they have seen a vehicle?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, would someone have seen a vehicle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one ever reported seeing someone walking down by the road. However, through their canvassing, they talked to someone who spotted an individual speeding back down that really rugged road. It just so happened that this individual who saw the car speeding was the same one that Robert had stopped on his way up to the trail about the terrible incident. This man, James, says he didn't see the driver. However, he recalls the vehicle either being a red Toyota pickup or a small SUV. The only reason he remembered it was because of how fast it was going down the gravelly road. Way faster than it should have been for those conditions, which speaks volumes.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't drive like that on those roads, and you wouldn't do that if
Unless
you were
you are
level-headed
running for
in a
something.
normal situation.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, police are obviously interested in this red vehicle, so they start looking into the women's lives to see if anyone has access to a red vehicle. David didn't, and neither did Susanna's boyfriend. Additionally, both of the men had solid alibis for being at work during the time of the murders. Additionally, police are now having a hard time establishing any type of motive for the double homicide. They were both low-risk victims with no problems in their lives. So the Pinnacle Lake Trail and the U.S. Forestry Service roads leading to the area where those females were murdered were open on Thursday. However, they closed again on Friday for further investigation, according to Deputy Rich, and I'm so sorry, Nybush of the Snohomish Sheriff's Department. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. The problem here, and what I have to question, is how open they allowed the roads to be. Were people hiking the trail on Thursday? What else is going on? Because the number one thing that I was taught is that you take your time with a crime scene, you only have one shot. Now, investigators are doing their work. The media is sitting just outside of the trailhead this whole time, obviously asking questions and reporting the story. This topic becomes front page for the news media in the following days of the incident. And as we all know, if it bleeds, it leads. Law enforcement receives hundreds of different tips regarding the double homicide. However, most of those tips have either led to dead ends or are being held close to the chest. They also began looking at surveillance tapes of the nearby convenience stores to see if anything was amiss, or possibly even if that red truck had shown up to stop and fill up for gas or pick up something from the convenience store. Additionally, there was talk of how law enforcement was speaking with another nearby agency regarding the murder of some campers the year prior to Susanna and Mary's homicide. To which, from what I could find out, it sounds like that murder occurred in Portland, and I am currently looking into it.
Interesting. Because that one, it's so close to Seattle.
Yeah, and like, for instance, my sister lives up in Washington, and honest to God, it's not that hard or that big of a drive to go between Portland and Seattle. It's just not. So,
Oh, I'm sure.
the Federal Bureau of Investigation did aid the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, but does note that the Sheriff's Office remains in charge of this investigation.
Literally just one road.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't even have to turn once you got to Seattle.
Exactly. It's a very straightforward way down. Deputy Rich also made mention in an interview with KOMO News that happened on August 31st of 2006 that the possibility of a murder-suicide had been ruled out. Additionally, stating that a random attack has not yet been ruled out and that anyone hiking the trails needs to be extremely cautious going forward. Now, as you can imagine, when this news broke, the media pulled into Snohomish County Sheriff's Department wanting more information, while the hiking community is becoming skittish of going out. Online discussion groups or forums that cater to the hiking community had many hikers practically worried and asking what others were doing, or if they were going to be hiking around or near the same trailhead. Additionally, many of the women in these forums or discussing groups talking were taking precautions and packing guns with them when traveling into these forests, or they were planning on traveling in large groups when hiking from now on. The Friday following the murders, the Stodden family hiked into Mount Baker Snohomish National Forest on a trail not far from Pinnacle Lake. David and his two other daughters resolved that they would do their best to not feel like victims, which I can understand because you want justice for your murdered loved ones and you don't want the spotlight to be pushed to you versus them. I get it. But at the end of the day, they are all secondary victims, and this is a tragic story. A memorial service was held for both of the women on Sunday, July 23rd, and the ashes of the women were spread on Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, in Nepal, and in the Colorado River when it meanders through the Grand Canyon, at the ocean, and some were even placed in the garden of the Stodden home. There were an estimated 1,500 people who attended the memorial service. Trees were planted and money was raised for good causes that the whole family believed in. A sign was also placed in front of the elementary school where Mary worked at, with a makeshift memorial that included 5 sunflowers, and it read, "Mary in the library, the nicest person in the universe. You will always be in our hearts." Eventually, in memory of Mary, the school's library was named after her as well. Eventually, David was allowed to go pick up Mary's van from the police impound lot and noted how there was still fresh fingerprint powder dusting the vehicle. David also made another trip to Everett to collect the couple's computer, which had been gathered by police earlier. Of all the items, though, David hopes that one day he can get back his wife's wedding ring. David posted flyers seeking information around Granite Falls, the trailhead leading up to Pinnacle Lake, and up the Robe Valley. He went to campgrounds and stopped to talk with people living around or along the Mountain Loop Highway. One of his sisters even went as far to send out postcards to hundreds of homes within the zip code of Granite Falls East along the highway, and it yielded at least half a dozen responses. One response suggested that the killings were part of a motorcycle gang initiation. In the fall, David hiked the trail with detectives. He recalled seeing numerous cartridge casings along the trail, some from 9mm, 40mm, and 45mm. He also remembers that one of the detectives tried to hide the bullet holes in one of his posters he'd positioned at the trailhead, trying to hide the fact that somebody had used it for target practice. Bullet holes were all over Mary and Susanna's faces, which I hope whoever does that or did that doesn't fucking sleep at night. Shame on you.
That's wild. Someone thinks they're funny.
It's not funny. It's not even a little bit funny. In January of what I can presume to be 2006, the Snohomish County Sheriffs requested that David take a polygraph test, which, regardless of his alibi, he could understand as to why they need to clear him 100% of any involvement. It's important to note that most murders are committed by someone close to the victim. Stranger-related homicide only accounts for about 1 in 5 murders, according to the Department of Justice statistics, with only 1/3 of all homicides going into a cold case or becoming unsolved. David took this polygraph, and the results came back as inconclusive, which I have to stress intensely does not mean that he failed. Polygraphs can be finicky, which is precisely why they are not admissible in a court of law. There can be weird thrown results due to stress or illness, anxiety, distress. Anything can throw a really weird result on a polygraph. To which
Sure, he was incredibly distressed.
I can only fucking imagine. And he was sick that day too when they administered the test. Which at that point, if he was sick coming into a polygraph test, that's kind of the situation that you have to go, okay, let's reschedule for when you're feeling better, because this is obviously not going to yield the results that we want.
Mm-hmm.
So in September of 2006, 2 months after the murder, detectives met with the FBI to get a profile from the Behavioral Analyst Unit. According to the analyst that the department spoke with, the homicides were cold, detached, and goal-oriented. The offender brought a handgun with him to the scene, and the execution style of homicide suggests that he was eliminating witnesses. The offender did not inflict excessive injury and does not appear to have interacted with either of the victims post-mortem. The offender was familiar with the area and had likely been there for a similar purpose in the past, but the available victims did not cross his path. The FBI didn't offer any type of suggestive information regarding motive, but they did call Mary and Susanna's murders risky, premeditative, and predatory in nature. After this, the investigation stalls and the case goes cold for years. David took another polygraph at one point during all this. However, once again, the results came back as inconclusive. And once again, that does not mean he failed the polygraph. They're just inconclusive. Now, David, who had an alibi for the day of the murders, is starting to become frustrated that detectives investigating this case are focused on him rather than searching for new tips. David further stated that he understands that he won't be completely ruled out until the shooter is found. He also stated that detectives seem to have things under control earlier in the case, as they appeared to have stopped looking for tips. During this time as well, David began meeting with investigators once to twice a month as he became frustrated with the lack of progress being made in the investigation. David, during all of this, is still making public appearances and appeals, asking for tips, and is regularly checking in with deputies out of fear that the case would basically be forgotten. At one point, David did ask the lead investigator at the time if the investigation had been mishandled by the sheriff's department, noting later that it wasn't meant to incite bad will or anything of that nature, and simply he was frustrated with the process of the investigation thus far. Today, he respects the detective both personally and professionally. However, as a result of his displeasure with the investigation so far, David would regularly place ads in newspapers and on other forms of media trying to generate any tips he could get on the double homicide. These flyers had generated 2 or 3 calls about someone named Aaron, who reportedly had information about the homicides. David hopes that this person will eventually come forward and talk with authorities and provide some concrete evidence as to what happened that day. Investigators also turned to DNA at this time, checking preserved samples of the women's fingernails. However, at the time, no DNA was found. And here we go. In 2012, a construction worker was arrested in Anchorage, Alaska, after kidnapping and murdering a young barista from a local coffee kiosk.
No! Oh my god.
As soon as you said we had a case up there, didn't we? I'm like, oh god, please no.
It's Israel.
Yep.
God. Fuck you. I mean, bleep you, Keys.
Israel Keys grew up in eastern Washington and has been linked to at least 8 murders in the United States, 4 of which are in his home state. Israel made notes to investigators in an interview after his arrest that I would go into remote areas that is not anywhere near you live, but other people go to as well. So you may not get exactly what you're looking for in a victim. There's not much to choose from, in matter of speaking, but there's also no witnesses, really. There's nobody else around. End quote.
See, this fits what we were talking about last video, where it's like he would have been in nature, you know, he would have been familiar with the area, and that crazy guy would hide caches in these areas. So there's probably a cache somewhere around there, and he is just waiting.
So
God.
The FBI has created a timeline for Israel's travels, and in 2013 concluded that it was highly unlikely that Israel was linked to the Pinnacle Trail murders.
He fits it, though.
He does fit it, though.
He fits it so well. It would be someone probably similar. Maybe not as crafty.
Maybe not as
Dare
crafty.
I call him crafty?
He was
but
he was a crafty, meticulous motherfucker.
He was crazy. Like, oh my gosh. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm geocaching with myself and murder.
And we're all like, no, Israel. No.
Don't do that.
Don't do
Keep
that.
the Home Depot buckets at Home Depot.
Additionally, going through those records, from what I could find, it looks as though Israel was at Port Angeles that day, and there are multiple transactions that he was making within the area. So he's shopping, basically, in the area while this is going on. And I don't know
Dear God.
if it's more terrifying to me that it's a murder similar enough to his that there could be somebody out there that's copycatting him, or if there's some deeper meaning behind the "we are one" that he left behind. It's
Jesus.
terrifying. So Snohomish County Sheriffs followed up on this, stating that they don't believe Israel is responsible for any murders in the county, which I'm like, that is a ballsy fucking statement, because I highly doubt that's true. Susie Provenzano, one of David's sisters, was told a couple years following the murders that a friend of her daughter's was actually hiking in that same area the Sunday prior to the murders. And she and her friend got this feeling that they were being watched, and it creeped them out, and they left.
Good feeling.
I know. If you have a gut feeling that something's wrong, fucking follow it. There's a reason you're getting that.
God, yes. No, seriously. I've been out in nature, and like, I've gone on like whole hikes, whole like 10-mile stretches by myself and felt fine the whole time, except for maybe, oh, there might be a wild animal nearby.
Mm-hmm.
But that feeling when something is super wrong, like super, super wrong, it sets in, and you know that you just know. I don't know how else to describe it.
It's that gut feeling. It's the gift of fear. Something's wrong. You need to get out of here.
You can just tell. You can tell when the birds stop singing. You can tell when everything just is too quiet for its own good. You can tell when you stop hearing people on some trails nowadays, because everybody loves hiking nowadays, I guess.
I know, it's a big commodity nowadays.
That's usually. Yeah, oh yeah, everyone's New Year's resolution involved hiking, I think.
Absolutely. I'm like, I enjoy hiking. It's just that I don't get out very often, and now I'm in an area that's infested with ticks, so it's not worth it to go hiking.
Bring a lighter. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I do. I do have a lighter on me when I go out.
You
now.
don't. Oh God, no! I would want to do that though. Ticks are gross.
See, and the biggest thing that they told me down here is that the easiest way to get them out is light a match and just stick that end of that match, blow it out, stick it to the tick, because they don't like sulfur, and they'll back themselves back out. So there's your tip. Also take sulfur supplements if you're going hiking regularly in the summer or spring.
Gross.
But they don't like sulfur. They don't like it.
You know, sometimes I smell bad enough as is. So.
So 10 years following the murder, David returned to Pinnacle Lake Trail with media, pointing out a cluster of blueberry bushes and a modest wooden plaque on a nearby tree reading, "In memory of Mary Cooper and Susanna Stodden. Rest in peace, 7/11/06. David also pointed out spots to media stating, "Susanna was laying here," as he motions to the ground, "and Mary was up against the log," pointing out a nearby log. Additionally, David follows up with how many thoughts obviously go through his head as he passes this point during his hikes. Had they met the shooter earlier along the trail? Did he intend to shoot them when he met them? Which route did he take to escape? But ultimately, David doesn't linger in the spot for long, lest he become overwhelmed with emotion when he does. The lead detective on this case, Brad Pintz, also retired during this time, and the investigation was handed off to the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office cold case team, which consists of 2 detectives who at the time, and I'm not sure if this has changed at all, had 80 cold cases dating all the way back to 1950. So they've got their hands full, and they could probably use some help with the task force. The Sheriff's Department spokesperson, Sherry Ireton, stated that somebody out there knows something. This was a crime that was committed by a human being. Even if there are no witnesses to the crime, the person who committed it may have shared that information with somebody else, or they may have suspected this person. Meaning, somebody has loose lips somewhere. He's had to have told someone. So someone has that information, but they might be too afraid to come forward and say it. In 2018, the sheriff asked David to take a 3rd polygraph. And after much convincing, he agreed to and finally passed, clearing him of involvement in the homicides. During an interview, David made mention of the failure of the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office conducting the investigation and how he'd previously taken out ads asking for the public's help in 2015. Further stating, "It's kind of insulting when someone wants you to take polygraph when it's your own family. And since I'd already taken it twice, I didn't want to take it again. They pretty much said that they weren't going to work on the case until I took a polygraph. So I finally decided to take it." David also believes that valuable time and resources were used looking at him as a potential suspect for so long, especially when the day the murders took place, at least 50 people saw him working at the construction site, that basically the focus was so tunnel visioned on him that they basically let anything else just go to the wayside. As a response to David's remarks, though, the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office stated, "It's an absolute horrible crime, and we want nothing more than to get justice and find answers for the Stodden family. Our detectives have continued to follow up on every lead and have been working the case since day one." To which I have to wonder if there are any new eyes on this case, individuals that don't know the story or know very little about it, because honestly, getting a different perspective can help get past a blockage or possibly a bias that has formed over years of a cold case. Now, ruling out David as the potential killer didn't change too much of the investigation. However, the time that had passed did change the investigation, as forensics is an ever-changing field with new techniques that are being developed every single day. In 2020, a forensic scientist in the crime lab revisited those fingernail samples. They hadn't found anything on them back in 2010 or 2012. However, a whole decade later had passed and a whole new decade of DNA was being formed. Albeit, it was a partial DNA profile of an unknown male that they detected under Susanna's fingernails. But it's a partial DNA sample nonetheless. This allowed for David and Susanna's boyfriend to be ruled out as contributors to the DNA profile. Additionally, that partial profile was compared to samples of Israel Keys, just to make sure, and there was no match. Although there's no current suspects to match the profile, the detectives in charge of the investigation aren't willing to sit back and wait. The lead detective stated he's interested in pursuing genealogical DNA testing, but is unsure if there's enough of a profile to do so. However, there is funding available to do so if they choose to go that route. The detective is also discussing the re-examination of the women's clothing and personal effects for further DNA. Additionally, in September of 2006, the sheriff's department was alerted from the crime lab that they had gotten an unusually high spike of P30 from one of Mary's sexual assault kit swabs. Now, to break down what P30 is real quick, it is the prostate-specific antigen. It is a glycoprotein produced in the prostate gland and secreted through seminal fluid, independently of the production of spermatozoa. So P30 can show up even with absence of semen. Now, P30 isn't solely connected to seminal fluid. There are other bodily fluids that will create P30, but not to the same concentration as seminal fluid will. However, a forensic scientist that made this discovery concluded that while P30 was found on the swab, there's no presence of male DNA, which means they can't say for sure if it came from semen or if it came from a false positive on the sample. According to Ashley Flowers' coverage of this, it's common for women over the age of 60 to show a spike in P30. However, if the samples were preserved properly, that allows for further YSTR testing, which would be male-specific DNA testing. This could perhaps be something that they could pursue in the future as DNA goes forward. So while we're not seeing male DNA right now, like we didn't see it in the fingernails, it could change moving forward with the time that DNA has to advance. Susanna and Mary's case would become featured on a playing deck of cold case cards, which is why it ended up on Ashley Flowers' show, The Deck. And they are the Ace of Hearts from Washington. David has also worked on a documentary film about the murders with a team based out of Seattle, Washington. And as of 2021, David still takes out half-page ads in the Everett Herald, hoping that someone's memory will light the fire in this cold case. He also regularly takes hikes back to the place of the murder and continues to relentlessly track down any leads that he can find. Detectives have also come to an agreement that the murders were random. And David further follows up with that no one really knew where the girls were heading that day as they changed their destination mid-travel. The murders of Mary and Susanna are challenging to say the least. Without a suspect, police can't be sure where initial contact took place between the victims and the offender. Additionally, the time of death is a range rather than a specific moment, according to some reports. Bob Keppel, a University of Washington grad and the lead investigator on the Ted Bundy case, stated, "You have to assume that police have more information that is unique to this case." Further noting, there have been no leaks. There's a real close aspect with the investigation, and that's the way it should be. Bob, although familiar with the murders, has declined to speculate with media as to what happened with Susanna and Mary that day. David states that, "I still think about Mary and Susanna every couple of hours. I remember when they were first killed, it was every second." And unfortunately, this case is still cold to this day. And investigators believe the only way it will be solved is by the public or possibly with genealogical DNA testing. They believe that someone out there knows something about what happened that day, and they're scared to come forward. A reward has been offered up for $1,000 to anyone that comes forward with information about the murders, and the sheriff's department is still seeking information about the cold case to this day. So that's where we're at with this. We are currently caught up to the present, which, if I think they're going to go through the organization that I would hope they would, Othram has been doing God's work with DNA. I swear every single day I go on LinkedIn, I see at least 10 new people that have been identified from Othram.
That's awesome.
They had a real big one not too long ago that was like 30 people in one day.
Wow. Just one psycho.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
No. It was just, it's
Okay.
unidentified remains. And they all got their names back on that one day. It was insane.
Wow. That's awesome.
So, Sarah, what are your thoughts? Now that I dangled Israel
okay.
Keys in front of you.
Oh, it's not him, though.
It's not, but it's a close enough case that I definitely, when originally doing Israel Keys, because their names came up when we covered Israel, I definitely went, okay, the MO fucking fits. Or his style fits this.
Some other deranged psycho that feels the need to murder people. Well, I don't know. I think it's smart that if they are withholding information, they still are.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, I think they're hoping for like at least an interrogation.
Yes.
Right? That's why you'd withhold it. Yeah, because you can't just go around interrogating people if the public knows everything.
Mm-mm. And even in interrogations, when you have information that's held close to the chest, they're not going to lay those playing cards out for you. They're waiting to see if you slip up or you talk about something in your confession to confirm that it is you that did it, because there would be nobody else that would have that information other than the killer and the authorities.
A dark day.
Dark day. It is.
Oh, God.
She's speechless, folks.
That just... Oh, I am. I truly am. After like all the information is presented like out on the table, and you can piece what you can together. I mean, like, you know, they have to be looking for the vehicle that was like allegedly spotted. And who's to say if they'll find a red truck Seattle.
See, and here was the really like
Oh,
shell-shocking thing is that Israel Keys did own a red truck.
I know.
And I went,
I know.
what area of the United States was that in? Was it in Washington or was it in New York? And from what I could figure out, it's at the New York property, or at least it was.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
But it's like, as soon as I saw the red truck, I went, oh, no.
As soon as I heard that, I immediately thought of the video of the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was like the first thing that came to mind as soon as you said red truck, and then as soon as you said Israel, I was like, oh, but is it? But is it?
Dad just let a cat in. Anyways, continue with your train of thought.
Oh God, do I even still have it?
Is it gone now? I'm sorry.
Oh God, there wasn't really much of one to begin with. It's like all the questions that this kind of raises. It's like I can't even have as many answers as like the police, and it's so unfortunate that had to happen to these ladies.
Mm-hmm. It's very
Like-
unfortunate to this family because
Yeah.
honestly, like when you have people doing the, oh, I'm gonna go for a hike, it's like, okay, go too. God bless. Have a good day. I'll see you in a couple hours. And then suddenly it's 5 p.m., then it's 6 p.m., and then it's 8 p.m., and you're sitting there going, where the fuck is my loved one? They didn't come back.
Yeah. Off of something like a hike. Like, oh my God, that trail didn't even look like it was too long. Like
No.
that looked like an easy trail to a cute little lake.
Yeah.
Like I'd expect like a whole reel of pictures for someone's Instagram. I wouldn't be expecting, or I guess 2006, I don't know, MySpace.
MySpace would be prevalent, and Facebook at that
If
point.
stuff even went on MySpace, they weren't just posting My Chemical Romance lyrics.
Me with all
But
my Resident
it's
Evil
like-
stuff on MySpace.
Oh God. But like, yeah, it's like the simplest little thing, just to go on like a little adventure and then to have it turn out just the worst case scenario.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's heart-wrenching, and I feel bad for David because they did focus on him for so fucking long. And
Even though he was what at work?
yeah, he was at work. There were 50 other
At a
people on the
construction
job
site.
site working with him,
They know if
talking
they
to
saw
him.
him.
And I understand, like, and I get it because honestly, it's like, okay, well, if he wasn't there, maybe he hired someone because it wasn't execution style, according to the FBI analyst. You have to question what all is going on and if there is involvement from a spouse, because it would be more likely for a person that you know to murder you over somebody that you don't.
I mean, you'd also have to like question the practicality of like hiring someone. And at that point you'd assume that there'd be some sort of trail.
Mm-hmm.
Be it money or anything.
And I mean, he handed over everything. He handed over checkbooks.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
handed
no,
over
I don't doubt.
finances. He had nothing to hide if he was doing that. If he had something to hide, he wouldn't hand those over. Because it
I'm
would
sure
show
he didn't even
immediately.
hesitate. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, $2,000 just went missing. What the heck, dude?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really didn't suspect him from the beginning. He honestly just sounds like a poor guy that was just at home while all of this happened.
Oh, absolutely. And like, I would be shocked if it came out that he was involved. But obviously, we have DNA testing, and he doesn't match the profiles, so he's not. But listening to him speak on the deck and listening to him speak in news media and any type of video that he's been able to be on for these cases, it is horrifying. And he's just traumatically upset about everything going on, to the point where he is crying. He has to take deep breaths. At some points, he has
Can't
to
fake
walk
that.
away. And
You can't fake that. Like,
I mean, you can do crocodile tears, obviously, but it's
but
one of those
no,
things that
it's not. Oh,
it's not to that extent. And he is just so
it's
distraught.
different when it's
And
real, I think.
yeah, and if I can remember correctly, it does sound like he still wears his wedding ring, or from what I could see, he still wears his wedding ring, which most people that do perpetrate these types of crimes, that's the first thing that comes off. Like if you look at Christopher Watts in Colorado, that immediately came off. And that was one of the biggest things that
He
people
was-
pointed out.
That's what he was trying to get rid of, you know? The old ball and chain. Dear fucking God. Oh, that case. That case hurts my feelings.
Mm-hmm. Which,
Ah.
I mean, we talk about it and most people know that story. We're not going to cover it because I know he listens to podcasts in his free time when he does have internet connection. And he does like to go back and listen to his crime, which is vile, to say the least.
Psycho.
Psycho.
That's gross.
He's an absolute
That's gross.
psycho.
Can you imagine just being so interested in yourself after
Ugh.
doing that?
No.
Ugh. Grubby.
No.
I'm gonna go take a bath now.
Exactly.
Actually, a shower. I don't think I could stew in that water.
I don't think I could stew in that water. There's too much ick
He's
there.
stewing in that water. I can't. I didn't even do it, and I can't even stew in that water. Like that's
No.
nasty.
So
Oh,
yeah, unfortunately, we still got a cold case here, and hopefully within this next year, if they do follow up with doing genealogical testing, which I would presume that they would go through Othram or somewhere close to Othram, because I think the Season of Justice actually funds some of Othram's DNA testing. So I would presume they'd go through Othram. I hope that within the next year, we have answers to this case, because the family
That'd be
deserves
good.
it.
I mean, it's only been what, like 18 years,
Mm-hmm.
17 years.
It'll be 20 in 2026, so it's been 18.
See, this is why I submitted my DNA, and they were like, "Can we use your DNA for this, this, and this?" I was like, "Why not? You can use
Why
it for
not?
everything you want."
Yeah, I
I
can
was like, if someone in
understand
my
that.
family goes to jail because of it, you deserved it.
You deserved it. That's your own damn fault.
That's your own fault. It's not my fault. I just want to know if I have hemochromatosis.
Exactly. I just
Yeah.
need to know if I have, like, anemia. Please tell me. No, I already know I have
I just want to
anemia.
know if I should quit drinking or smoking. I was
Exactly.
like, tell me, what does my DNA say? Where am I from? Oh, I'm Irish. Cool. Didn't know that.
You didn't know that? You're pale, Sarah. You're absolutely
I
pale.
know,
You're
isn't
somewhere
that
in the
crazy?
UK, Europe.
Oh God, I've been told everything but that. Literally everything under the sun. And it's like, you're like 90% Irish. I was like, okay, well, that makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
Your family hails from Ireland. And it's like, oh,
Meanwhile, my
yeah.
dad's side of the family is Scottish and Norwegian, and the Scots in me is like, oh, don't worry, little lassie, we'll keep the pounds packed on you so you can run away from the English. I'm like, okay. I don't really need it anymore
Okay.
because we ain't running from each other, but all right.
You're like, well, cool, thanks. And then we all have celiac disease. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I have noticed that.
We all have it.
We all
Ugh.
have it.
God, the Brits cannot eat, or anyone from that area cannot eat.
I had gluten
American
this
grown
evening, and my
bread.
poor stomach's like, what are you doing with your life? I'm like, I'm sorry.
Oh God, I can't even do it anymore. I accidentally had an oat milk latte, and I ended up losing close to 20 pounds. And I had a 2-inch ulcer in my stomach, and it healed, and I can now absorb food like a normal human again. But dear God,
Oh God, that sounds horrendous.
those kids at Starbucks were really trying to kill me.
I mean, to
I
be
don't-
fair, most Starbucks baristas don't try to do it, but every opportunity I've had to go through Starbucks, I always get fucked over with my milk. I'm like, yeah, I'll do almond milk. And they're like, huh, whole milk?
Go for like unsweetened almond milk, because when they sweeten that, carcinogens, even though, you know, I vape.
That's not
You
really a
don't vape
worry when I smoke
carcinogens.
hookah anymore.
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh my God.
You're like, yep, this is just happening.
This is just happening. I've come to terms with that. If you or anyone you know has any information regarding the unsolved murders of Susanna Stodden and Mary Cooper, you are asked to contact the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office at 425-388-3393. That number again is 425-388-3393. Or you can contact Crime Stoppers at 206-343-2020. That number again is 206-343-2020. Thank you again for listening to Spattered. Please make sure to follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at Spattered Podcast and on X at Spattered Pod. If you're enjoying the show, make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts from. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to be notified when the show goes live or drops a video. As always, if you have a case request, any questions, or are interested in sponsoring the show, please email me at spatteredpodcast@gmail.com. Spattered is a true crime podcast hosted by Caitlin Gardner and Sarah Ray. The research and edits for this episode were done by Caitlin Gardner. All the music for the show was done by Lucio Cardenas. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there. And remember, the truth is always in the blood.